Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Beverly and welcome to my channel, Miles and Coffee. I want to take a moment to welcome all of the new subscribers. The channel is growing, so thank you so much. If you're new here, please hit the like button. That's the best way to help the channel. And I have to say thank you to the coffee donations. And I would love to mention that today's video and discussion is brought to you by a lovely subscriber. Thank you so much for your cash donation, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Paula. You know who you are, for your coffee donation. So she says, blessings upon blessings to you. May the blessing be multiplied. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Your coffee donations do help me because I do consultations on the side. It helps me do more research and to bring you to different cafes and locations locally in the city. So thank you for that. Anyone else who is interested in contacting me for a private consultation, I do those. And the link is below. It's called a coffee chat. And some of you have emailed questions. Thank you for that. The best way for me to respond to you is in a private consultation where I can entertain your questions and use my expertise as an expat in Mexico, or do more research to help you. So those have been going great. It's my little side business, and I'm always so thankful, and I'm always just humbled by the opportunity to be of help and assistance to those of you who are seeking a path to moving abroad, or maybe are thinking about retiring early. As mentioned in another video, later on this month, I will begin another channel devoted to those of you who are interested in getting TEFL certified and maybe teaching online. Okay. All right, let's get started with today's topic. As you saw in the thumbnail, there are some mixed reactions. So if you'll stick to the end of the video, I will share with you. We want to hear how the locals feel about those of us who are moving here to their country. But let's start by reading again the fact that Mexico is among the best places to retire. Condé Nast in the last 3 or 4 years running has been looking at the retirement index, and they are rating Mexico among some of the best places to retire. So let's get started, and I'll put my readers on. You can read along with me. This article comes from the Cabo Sun. Mexico is a convenient choice for Mexican retirees, but the country offers far more perks than its geographic proximity. You can easily find high-speed internet and cell service, good highways, reliable electricity, and familiar stores and restaurants alongside local gyms. And thanks to a huge expat community, more than 1 million Americans live there at least part of the year. You don't have to be fluent in Spanish to get around easily. You know, that is worth mentioning, this whole idea that you can find cell service depending on where you are. You know, some of the major tourist attractions and some of the major cities, you can find good cell service, reliable internet, and good highways. That might be a surprise to some of you. Also reliable electricity. Now, this whole idea about you don't have to be fluent, it just so happens that yesterday I had a person-to-person coffee talk with a friend. We went out to coffee, and as always, when you go to local cafes, people are so friendly that whether they know you or not, they'll strike up a conversation just out of general interest, where you're from, to share experiences. And we all talked about the fact that at my table, some of us are in varying degrees of our Spanish journey. And a wonderful gentleman shared the fact that he is fluent in Spanish because he's of Hispanic descent. And so he's newly moved here to the Baja California Sur area. And he shared some tidbits about watching telenovelas and interacting with the locals. And that's what I do. I said that I do not take formal lessons, but I do use Duolingo 2 years running. I've been very persistent about that, 20 minutes a day religiously. Instead of playing online games, that's my quote unquote game, is to learn my language and to practice hearing and speaking, sometimes writing, looking at new words when I go out. And just the main thing is listening. But you don't have to be fluent to move and retire here. So these are all good added points. Let's continue to read about this next point. Right now, gentrification is the key word. If you read Mexican media, many places in Mexico are enduring it. At least 3 neighborhoods in Mexico City have experienced huge changes, with both wealthy Mexicans and foreigners, and of course, a huge increase in rental and sale prices of properties. For example, rentals in Los Cabos can start at $750 USD, that's United States dollars, per month for a 2-bedroom home in a middle-class Mexican community. Electricity and water are cheap, and if you scout restaurants a few blocks away from the downtown Cabo San Lucas and San Jose del Cabo, you can find excellent food at very affordable prices. Yep, restaurants in tourist areas charge gringo prices, then pay their help Mexican wages. This is why I always tip 20% if the service is good. That's my go-to as well. That's what the tipping standard is in the United States. So that is my personal tipping standard here. It is more than the average. The average is between 10 to 15%, but my standard for good service is 20%, because I want to help the local economy, and I really appreciate good service, and I want the server to know that by my tipping and my gracious attitude. But let's talk about this gentrification. It is happening everywhere. Most recently, I think I shared in a past video a little clip from Mexico City and the reaction that it is getting to people that are moving in from, I want to say, Silicon Valley in California, and they moved to Mexico City to become digital nomads and take advantage of the low cost of living and the low rental prices. But what we would consider a low quote unquote price still might be high for the local area or for the locals who pay rent as well. Since locals, if they work in a local job, might not make as much money. That's just, that is the norm. That is just a rule of thumb, is that usually the average worker is not going to be able to afford those higher prices. So that has become an area of concern. Where I am located, I've noticed that in the last couple of years, the prices have increased. And, you know, we might say, coming from a foreign country into Mexico, that, oh, I can afford to pay that. But it is not the local going average. So what happens is the rents go up and it might price the locals out. That is happening, and it's unfortunate. So when we quote unquote come in and throw money and say, oh, I can afford this, we're not aware that it's pricing others out. That is just a reality. The other thing that you need to keep in mind as well as you look for places to live if you're coming to Mexico is that the dollar right now is not in our favor. When I first moved here to Mexico, going on 4 years, you guys, I'm gonna do a special video just on my expat anniversary, which is this month. Anyway, that'll be a separate video altogether, so I can celebrate, maybe go to a restaurant and celebrate that way. But when I first moved here 4 years ago, you're looking at 20, sometimes 21 pesos to a dollar. That is no longer the case. You're looking at 16 to 17 pesos any given day. 17 would be a good day, right? So that, even though the it might help some locals that the peso is stronger, but for our dollar, that means that it's not stretching as it used to. And again, I had a conversation yesterday with the locals that said that no, when the peso is stronger or you get less dollar for the peso, it's not good for the locals either, because that might mean less people buying. You know, if my dollar is not stretched, it might cause some people to spend less money at a restaurant or at a store, and that's not good for the Mexican economy. And I was so glad that a local raised that point to show that no, we want a strong dollar as well. It's a win-win for everybody. So these are tips that we, coming to Mexico as foreigners or expats, need to keep in mind, that our perspective might be different from a local's perspective, and we need to keep a dialogue open. I just have an attitude that I am in learner mode so that I can learn as much as possible from the locals. So speaking of locals, there are some mixed reactions, you know, to foreigners moving in, retiring, or buying property here for 6 months at a time and then going back to their home countries. It would behoove us to keep their perspective in mind. Let's read some of them. There's so many, but I chose just a couple. And let's read the first one. Caesar Trujillo, 41, who is a consultant, this is his reaction. I don't think we need that many foreigners here making our rent prices go up. And on top of that, being conceited. Some people order in English and get mad when I don't understand them. They're in my country. Why can't they learn the language? That's unfair. If we go to the United States, we're expected to speak English. If you want to go to a foreign country for lower rent while you work remotely, be my guest. But it's your job to learn the local language. And if you're going to take advantage of living in a cheap country with an expensive salary, do something to give back to the community that you're gentrifying. Wow. See, these are the types of opinions we as outsiders need to hear and be aware of and take into consideration. And you know, this point that he makes about knowing the language and being expected, you know, he says they get mad when he doesn't understand. Does that sound familiar? You know, think about if you're in the United States and you encounter someone from Mexico, the shoe goes on the other foot. Remember, I teach English to professionals, native Spanish speakers that have to learn English for their work and for their business. And they say all the time, Beverly, people sometimes are not kind when I'm trying to speak English and I make a mistake. And so these are very valid concerns. Also, he says that, you know, give back to the economy, try not to be conceited. These are his opinions. He said he doesn't think that there needs to be that many foreigners because of the conceited attitude. It's, you know, I'm just a messenger, but I am so glad that I had the opportunity to listen and to learn what others might be thinking or how they might be perceiving us so that I can act accordingly. Let's read another opinion or reaction to expats from a local. Sandra Padilla, 28, logistics. This is her job. Can you really blame them though? If someone says, hey, it would be much cheaper for you to live here, are you just going to ignore them? People ignore the impact of tough ethical decisions every day for either the sake of convenience or survival. The cost of housing has become a nightmare. And then we complain when someone actually buys a property they can afford. That's so hypocritical. The housing market is ugly right now. We should blame mega corporations for snatching up property in ghost bids, not the average person just needing a place to live. What a gracious attitude Sandra has. She's saying, can you blame them? So we all know that rising prices in the economy being stretched right now, and also, inflation. Think about it. If you're looking for cheap rent, so-called, according to an American dollar or an American budget, might not be so cheap to a local when you get here. But Sandra is saying, well, I can't blame you because we all have that goal to save money. And so she's being very gracious in her acceptance and offering that. Let's look at one more that I found very interesting. And this one is Isabel Garcia. She's 25 and she's a student. She says, I think it's not the foreigners who are gentrifying, but the few Mexicans who sell their houses to companies that build apartment buildings and stack 50 times more people in there that should be per square meter. It's really not that many foreigners when you do the math. And most of them just want a little more sunshine, a little more joy in their lives, which they can't get back home. They want good tacos and to buy fresh fruit with chili and lime on the street. Thank you, Isabel. Wherever you are, that is a response and a reaction after my own heart, because that sums up my reason for being here as I look toward my pre-retirement years. The fact that I have access to fresh fruits and vegetables for a little bit less to make my retirement dollars stretch, and those good tacos on the street, and the local gracious attitude. For example, yesterday, I just mentioned to a friend how gracious the owner of that particular cafe was to come out and greet you, leave the front cash register and actually come out to the door and greet new customers. I actually brought her a new customer. And then as you leave, she's watching and will come out to make sure to give you a farewell, ask how did you enjoy your meal. These are the types of things that draw people to the culture. So what do you think? Do you think that the locals raise valid points? I'm sharing my opinion when I say I think that all three opinions, even though they vary in some degree, I have to accept them all, because we need to try to look at things from the local perspective and remember to be gracious in our own attitude toward the locals, not arrogant or conceited like the one gentleman mentioned in his reaction. After all, these people are in a native country that we are coming to, and they welcome us with open arms and share their culture. We owe them a debt of gratitude, in my opinion, and our respect. It's just, again, my opinion. And again, my channel is about sharing my perspective as I live here. And everybody's experience is different according to, I believe, your attitude, okay? So leave a comment below. It's not often that we get a chance to hear a local perspective. Maybe one day I'll do that. In a past video, maybe I'll leave a link to that one at the end. That card will be here, but I'll share Henry. He's from California. He's a resident here now, and he's a local worker in this tourist economy. And he shared his perspective about why he lives here and his experience. But I want to do more of that so that you can hear different opinions from people that live here, okay? So share your comments below. I would love to read your reaction to the locals' reactions. I do read your comments and I try to respond to every one of them, because right now I have the luxury of doing that because this channel has not expanded to the point where it's out of control. So I do my best to read and respond to every one of them. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that this has been insightful. This article was insightful for me when I read it. So of course I had to share it with you. And I'm wishing you a great day. Take it one day at a time. God bless you on your journey. Okay. And we'll see you next time on Miles and Coffee. Bye for now.